Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to Determination Wednesday Spiritual Study Class. We are the Determination, aka the Temple of Mercy Association, located here in Chicago, Illinois. You can always join us each and every Sunday at 12:30 p.m. at 838 West Marquette Road in the Inglewood community of Chicago, Illinois. Come and be fed by God's messengers. If you would like more information about this lecture or any of our previous lectures, you can always feel free to drop us a message if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, or you can always shoot us a text at 773-846-3091. And if you have been following us for a while, you have probably heard us extend an invitation to you and your family before. But we must understand it is very important now more than ever that we come together so that we can work in unity on these issues that is affecting us as Black people in America, and that we can work together to create positive solutions for ourselves, our children, and our children's children. The title of my lecture is a continuation from the lecture on Sunday, and the title is The New Noose. Before I start my lecture, I will begin by reciting our opening. But definitely, like I said, if you would like more information about this lecture or any of our previous lectures, feel free to drop us a comment on YouTube or Facebook or shoot us a text at 773-846-3091. Also, I am Sister Ebony Stevenson. In the name of the everlasting Father, he that causes all that exists to exist, he that is self existent, he who directs the sunships of millions and trillions of years, and he who made time the seed of the universe, known among the ancient Kemites or Egyptians as Amun Ra and Anten, among the Hebrews as Ansal, Yahweh, and Elohim, among the Christians as Lord, God, and Jehovah, among the Muslim world as Allah, the one God, among the Rastafarians as Jah, Rastafari, among the Yoruba tribes of West Africa as Olodumare, Eshu, and many other Orisha names. I bear witness that all of these names refer to the same one, Almighty God, and it is to him whom I give reverence and to whom I submit. I boldly proclaim that we, the descendants of those Black men and women who survived the transatlantic slave trade, are the lost 13 tribe, born here in North America, and are of a Nubian Kemetic lineage. I further proclaim that the blood of all the nations of the world flow through our veins. I greet you in the ancient yet holy words of peace, Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, Habaragani, Alafia, and Ashe. Peace, peace, brothers and sisters, and welcome to our Nations Wednesday spiritual study class here in Chicago, Illinois. We are continuing this topic about, you've heard us mention modern day lynching, you've heard it called the new noose. It's a topic that was started by our founder, Minister Raheem Kasset-Aten, in a lecture a couple of weeks ago when he talked about modern day lynching. He talked about what modern day lynching was. He listed the names of those Black people who have been lynched. He also talked about the connection between modern day lynching and lynching of the past. And he even connected modern day lynching to the tsunami of guns in our community. And so I am continuing that theme. And the theme on Sunday was called The New Noose. And so this is The New Noose Part 2. And on Sunday, I said a quote. And it's very important. And as Black people, we must internalize this quote. We must remember this quote because it's not just a quote. It's something that we have to actively practice because we're going through a lot of things in this country. We know it from being on the economic bottom economically. We know about the violence, right? We know about the racial terror. Like we know about all of these things that's affecting Black people in this country. But there's this saying that we have to own Because if we do not own this and pay attention to this, we're going to continue to be repeating these same cycles as we are right now. And I mentioned this before in my lecture that Minister Raheem had predicted that in a couple years, it will be, and this was a couple years ago when he said, in the future, it's going to feel like we're sliding back in time, like we're going back to the 1800s. And it is very true. And it's what so many people are saying. It's like the climate that we find ourselves in America, it's like we are traveling back in time. For those of you who are nerds like me, it's like we got this weird orange-shaped TARDIS, and we're all in the TARDIS, and we're just funneling through time and space, traveling back further, further, and further back in time. And when you look at how we talk about this racial terror, this racial violence against Black people, this is something that was happening then. It's something that's happening now because it never stopped. And so the quote that I'm going to repeat, that I repeated on Sunday, is called, "Those," not called, but it is, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." And I'm going to repeat it again like I did on Sunday. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. See, sometimes we forget how America treats us. Sometimes we forget how America views us. And we have to be clear that we understand that in America, that on this face of the planet, that a white life will always be worth more than a Black life. And that's not hyperbole. It's not fiction. It is a fact. And we see it every day. We're traumatized and re-traumatized by this every day. We are traumatized by women calling out to find out what has happened to their children. We're traumatized by looking at families crying at funerals and all of these other things because of what's happening to their children, because of what's happening to their family members, because of what happened to their brothers, their sisters, their uncles, their aunts. And we cannot forget the past because we are condemned to repeat it. And we are constantly repeating it until we can get together and join forces and figure out how to hold these people accountable, but then also how to protect ourselves. Now, when I talk about the new Noose, when Minister Raheem talks about modern day lynching, I'm just going to go through some things just to refresh our memory, because we're talking about, Nolan, and we're talking about Cyrus, and we're talking about all of these cases, right? And so I'm just going to go through some names just to refresh our memory when we talk about modern day lynching. Now we know, let's go back a couple years ago. We remember Ahmaud Arbery, who was chased through his neighborhood by two white men in a pickup truck. And the neighbor filmed it, and he was shot and killed, minding his business in his neighborhood. That was 2020. And he was 25. And this was in Georgia. Let's look at Peter Spencer. This is 2021. Rockland Township, Pennsylvania. He was shot multiple times while on a camping trip with a former coworker. Several people present were questioned and released without charges. His family, through their attorney, publicly called it modern day lynching and unsuccessfully pushed, as far as public reporting shows, for the case to be handed to an independent medical examiner. 2024. Javion, I'm hoping I'm saying this name right, Javion McGee in North Carolina. A 911 caller reportedly found him hanging from a tree. The sheriff described him as found with his back against the tree and a rope tied around his neck, and initially resisted the word lynching or hanging. Months later, North Carolina State Medical Examiner ruled it as a suicide. The family disputed this, and their attorney noted that there was nothing under his fingernails or in his hands, and they said that he had no history of depression or suicidal ideation, and that had just been licensed as a truck driver with plans to visit his family days later. Are you noticing a pattern? Are you noticing the pattern? And these are all, when we talk about suicide, right? That the medical examiner ruling it a suicide. Let's continue while we notice this pattern. Now, when we say the new noose or modern day lynching, there doesn't have to be a rope or a tree involved. We talk about Rasheem Carter, 25, who went missing October 1st, 2022 in Mississippi, telling his mother he was being chased by 3 truckloads of white men, and he'd gone to the Taylorsville Police Department for help before he went missing. A trail camera captured him shirtless in the woods that day, carrying a large branch, appeared to be running. His remains were found in pieces in a wooded area over the following months. A skull and some bones and more remains were recovered several months later. The sheriff's office publicly stated there was no reason to suspect foul play despite the state of the remains. And what was interesting about his case was that his severed penis was found in his mouth, and the bones were clean cuts, which were inconsistent with the animal attack of them chewing on the bones. Mississippi. Now let's continue. Malcolm Hirsch, 38, Victorville, California. Robert Fuller, 24, Palmdale, California. What was interesting in Robert Fuller's case, and these happened not too far away from each other. Not too far away, but not one was in May and one was in June. Was that Robert Fuller? They did an FBI state investigation because Palmdale, where he was found, has a history of hate crime activity. Then we got Dominique Alexander. This is 2020. Ruled a suicide. Omari Bryant, found hanging in December 2020, ruled a suicide. Trevante Jamal Schubert Helton, 29, found in Georgia, ruled a suicide. Family disputes it, saying he had no history of mental illness. 2025, Earl Smith, Albany, New York, ruled a suicide by police. Right? The family and the community disputed it, saying police declined to review available camera footage. DeMar Trevion Trey Reed, 21, found in, this was September 2025, Delta State University in Mississippi. Medical examiner ruled a suicide. Torrance Tory Medley, 39, found in Brookfield, Wisconsin on a golf course. The police ruled it a possible suicide. Are you catching the theme? Let's look at Yolna Lubrin, 30, found hanging on September 28, 2023 in Orlando, Florida. She was found hanging beside a friend's home. Juliana Nazita, 16, found May 2026 in Charlotte, North Carolina, near a church after being reported missing since late April. She had recently arrived in the country from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Tania Nicole Miller, 27, found June 18, 2026 in Miami, Florida, and Gwen Cherry Park around Juneteenth. Ruled an apparent suicide, but her sister disputes it and sought an independent autopsy. Worth noting, the sheriff's office didn't confirm the hanging from a tree detail. That came from the NAACP Miami-Dade branch of community reporting. So, what do all these things have in common when we talk about the so-called the government or the police or the people who we're supposed to depend on, who as residents of the United States, that we're supposed to be able to depend on certain branches of government to protect us. But what are they saying? There is no way that all of these are suicides. And then they just rule it a suicide and sweep it under the rug. Because when we talk about this notion, the lynching, and we talk about the new noose, see, we have to understand that the rope never fell. See, we talk about, lynching as a past tense, as something that used to happen, but we can see clearly that it never stopped. And because of social media, we're getting more and more details, and it's because of the outcries on social media that then maybe the news media picks it up. And as we look at this just horrible situation with Nolan Wales and everything that's going on with his case, and how once again we're showing very viscerally, right? Very viscerally, that America does not care about the lives of Black people. It's something that we've known, right? We go through all of the riots after George Floyd's murder, and like all of the riots in the street, and we go through like all of these things, because these are not the only situations of modern day lynching, right? That Sandra Bland, like so many, that there's so many people, so many Black people who've lost their lives to modern day lynching, to the new noose. Because it doesn't have to be a rope when we talk about how America has always instilled racial violence, always promoted racial violence against Black people. This is nothing new. And to show how America shows white people that it's okay to kill us. It shows white people that it's okay, that it doesn't matter if we're walking in our neighborhood. It doesn't matter if we're at the park. It doesn't matter if we're a child with a bag of Skittles. It doesn't matter if we're at a convenience store. It doesn't matter if we're at an amusement park. It doesn't matter if we're watering our neighbor's plants. It doesn't matter where we are or what we're doing. It doesn't matter where we are or what we're doing. And when you look at how they're showing us who they really are, when we're looking at how from the white youth and how they had all of these lies, and how they had Nolan's phone, and saying that, oh, he was going to stay. He said he was going to stay on the island, but y'all had his phone. So let's say technically if he wanted to stay on the island, how would he get picked up? Y'all took the boat and the phone. So how would he get back home? Like, nothing is added up. And then when we look at what was released today about how the medical examiner did not give the independent medical examiner all of his body, what does that tell you? That we can see the cover up happening a mile away. We can see the cover up happening the minute they said he was missing, and his photo on the boat with the white boys was circulating on social media. We saw the cover up a mile away. And so once again, we're in this situation where, what did I say in the beginning of the lecture? Does anyone recall the first thing I said? That statement? I'm gonna give you a minute. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Are condemned to repeat it. Are condemned to repeat it. Don't you feel like we're repeating it? Don't you feel like all the things that your Black grandma or your Black grandfather or your Black aunties and uncles or your parents told you of what was happening, of the lynchings, of having to look out for white people, about not being in the same spaces as them, about having to watch your back, about the sundown towns. And we, Toma Nation, are in the state of Illinois, by the way, which had the most sundown towns out of any other state in the entire country. This is nothing new. But what's new is that we have an opportunity like never before to channel our anger, to channel our pain, to work together. Because I mentioned this in my lecture on Sunday. We can't fight a war internally and externally at the same time. We can't keep falling for the okie doke when they're pitting black women against black men, when they're pitting light-skinned people against dark-skinned people. When they're hanging people, when they're killing our people, doesn't matter if you're light-skinned or dark-skinned. Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican or independent. Doesn't matter if you didn't vote. Doesn't matter if you're young or old. Doesn't matter if you got money or don't have money. Doesn't matter if you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Hebrew Israelite. Do your religion matter when they're hanging you? None of those things matter. All they see is this. And so while we're so busy fighting, saying, oh, light-skinned do dark-skinned people wrong, or dark-skinned people do light-skinned people wrong, we're missing the message. We're missing the message. Like with Cyrus, that they're saying it's okay to kill us. Have you not seen the vitriol hate of white people in social media about the Nolan Wells case and them happy that he was killed? That them making statements about our children and about us? Do we not see the vitriol hate of black people being in spaces targeted by white people, being assaulted by white people? Because now they feel emboldened that they can be them true selves. And I mentioned this in my lecture, that they can be them true selves. They don't have to hide. They don't have to hide. They can be themselves. And we want them to be themselves because we want to see how they really are. We need to see how they really are. Because we get selective memory. We forget. We let things happen, we get mad, and then we move on to the next. We move on to the next until something else happened, until something else happened, until something else happened, until something else happened, until it's your child, until it's your uncle, until it's your father, until it's your mother, until it's your aunt, until it's your family member. Then we're outraged again. Something's got to give. We can't keep moving in this never-ending circle of racial terror. And that's racial terror on many levels. And when I say racial terror, I'm not just talking about violence against black people, but I'm also talking about the connection between the tsunami of guns that are flooding black inner cities across this entire country. And what's interesting when we talk about, the tsunami of guns that are in the inner cities of America, we never talk about how the guns got there, right? So let's look at how when they passed all of this legislation about the opioid crisis, because white people are dying and we're dying, right? From overdosing on opioids, right? They go after the person who supplies the drugs, right? So you see these cases, a white person ODs. The white person, the white family, they're sad, and they demand that there's accountability and to find where did the drugs come from. And so they find out who sold them the drugs, and that person goes to jail. That person gets a lengthy sentence. The opioid crisis. They're funneling the opioid crisis, fentanyl, and all these other things. Their child is dead. So hold the person accountable who sold them the drugs? Why are we holding the people accountable who are flooding our communities with guns? Notice that word tsunami, that there is a tsunami of guns in our community. That's by design. That's not an accident. And for it to be happening in the inner cities of America, that certain types of weapons are flooding our communities, this is not an accident. It is easier for a child to get a hold of a gun than it is for them to get a hot meal. How does that make sense? It doesn't. And we have to understand that these things are by design. Go put that thing in there. Do you want to be condemned to constantly repeat the past over and 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 over again? I don't. Now, as we continue this conversation about the new Noose, I mentioned it before that when we link modern day lynching to lynching of the past, is that it was never, the rope never fell. And so when you talk about the rope never fell, they just changed it over to something else as they're continuing to do the same thing. Now, we know about the past and about slavery, right? And and Reconstruction and the civil rights movement. Because we also have to understand that the noose wasn't just about lynching that person. It wasn't just about, and also, can we just say, the fact that white people, and when I say this, and I mentioned it in the lecture on Sunday, but if you white and you watching this, you can't blame us. This is your history. This is what your people did. It's what you continue to do. And so you have to understand that when I'm in this lecture and I'm talking about white people, I'm not referencing your comfortable white person, your safe white person, your safe white people. I'm referencing white people as a whole. Because as long as we live on a planet that says a white person's life is worth more than a black person's life, then we got to have some accountability. And I can say that because it doesn't matter where black people find ourselves. Stuff is happening everywhere. But we're focusing on those of us who are living in America. Now, when we talk about, and the thing that I was mentioning, I had lost my train of thought about lynching. It wasn't just the rope, right? It was the disembowelment. It was the torture. It was the white people getting off on the screams and the pain and torture of black people. It was them being giddy and excited like they were at a party, and they made it a party. They made it a picnic. They brought their kids. They brought their aunts, their uncles. It was a family gathering for them to take glee and to have pleasure in the torturing, maiming, and murder of black people. And it wasn't just the act of lynching. After that person made their transition, it was the defilement of their body. They were eating body parts. They were pickling body parts. This is America. This is the reality of where we are. And when we forget who we are and where we are, this is why we have problems. Now, I know for some of y'all, that's hard to swallow, because we also have to understand that the noose, that the lynching, it was a message. It was a message to other black people. Your life don't matter. We can get you at any time. Don't come here, nigger. You heard me. I said nigger with a hard R. like they're doing. It doesn't matter what social media platform you on. If you on X, if you on Facebook, if you on Instagram, if you on TikTok, about white people calling us niggers with the hard R, showing their behind, showing them how they really think about us. And I also mentioned this in my lecture. When you have these social media warriors, these keyboard warriors who are going and looking up these accounts who are making racist comments, or the people who are responding to the racist comments with more racist comments, when the people are looking them up to see who they are, they got pictures with black kids. Some of them have black children. They hugged up on black people. They in photos with other black people. And so, see, these were the undercovers. See, when they smiling in black people's face, but then showing their behind on their keyboards and showing us what they really feel. And I also mentioned this in my lecture. See, we got to understand where we are and how this country views us. Because don't get it twisted when you got the people who be talking about, well, oh, I got white friends, or oh, my partner is black, my partner is white, my spouse is white, I got a white grandma, I got white aunties. They not racist. Because look how they treat me. White people have always desired black bodies. White people have always fetishized black bodies. Just because a white person has sex with a black body does not mean they love black people. Just because a white person has married a black person does not mean they love black people. You can have sex with someone you hate. Slavery. Come on now. This is nothing new. The fetishization of black bodies. How many babies resulted from rape during slavery? Did that mean that they love black people because they was having sex with black people? No. This is real, people. And just because your grandma white, or your uncle is white, or your grandfather is white, that means nothing. Just because they love their grandchild don't mean they love black people. It's stories of biracial kids talking about how they parents, it's a viral story of a white woman calling her child a nigger, and she's being recorded calling the child a nigger with a hard R. And this is a child a flesh that fell off her body. When we talk about these things that are going on in our communities, that are going on in this country, we got to have these real conversations, these real uncomfortable conversations, because we're never going to be able to come up with a strategy to protect ourselves. We're never going to be able to come up with a plan for unification to unite ourselves if we do not deal with the facts. And that's the thing. These are the facts. This is the truth. It may be hard for you to digest it, but it is what it is. And so when I said that statement about that the noose was a message, that the lynching, that the hanging was a message, that the murder was a message, what happened when people were being lynched back in the day? Did the police protect them? Did they protect their families? Did the government protect them? And so when we connect that to modern day lynching, to the new noose, and we connect that to the police are always, even before all the evidence is even in the door, the police is like, oh, it was a suicide. Are you seeing the comparisons to back then and now? When we talk about racial terror and about racial violence, and the purpose of striking the fear in the hearts of black men, women, and children across this country. And how white people still to this day get off on the torture and murder of black people. And also, let's look at when I just mentioned how the police and other bodies of government are so quick to rule things suicides. Do you not think when the lynchings were happening in the past that there was not law enforcement right there, kikiing and hoo-hooing, taking glee in the torture of black people, taking glee in the murder of black people? You think law enforcement wants him right there, chilling and kikiing, getting a piece of the body too to take home to their people? And I know for some of y'all just like, ugh, but this is real. If you don't know that white people used to eat us, if you don't know that white people used to have a family outing at lynchings, this isn't something I came up with. This isn't a myth. This is facts. Look it up yourself. They had a whole family reunion under the tree at the lynching site. What kind of people do you have to be to take glee in the torture of another human being? Are you even human yourself? If you can take glee in the torture of another person, that you can take glee in the disembowelment of someone, in the cutting off of their penises, in the disemboweling pregnant women, that you can take glee and have a party? What kind of people are you for you to think that that's cool, that that's okay? And these people that we're seeing in these comments who are happy that Nolan Wells is dead, who are happy that Cyrus was shot in the back, who are happy that Carmela was sentenced to 35 years, these are their descendants. Just like in our opening, when we say we're the descendants of the black men and women who survived the transatlantic slave trade, where these are the descendants of the very same people who tortured and murdered and raped our ancestors. And I'm not just talking about through slavery. How many black families who immigrated to the North have stories about the lynchings, who have visceral memories of the lynchings, who have stories of black women being sexually assaulted, who have stories of black men and black women being murdered? Nobody know who did it. That's racial terror, and that's racial violence. I know I'm saying a lot. Oh, and it's 8:41. I didn't realize it was getting so late. I had a lot to cover in this lecture. So much. But I hope that this conversation that I'm having with you, I hope that it's making you think. I hope that it's making you see that this issue is so huge that it's not something that an individual can solve. Ben Crump can sue and try to get redress on behalf of the families, but suing is not going to stop this from happening to another family. It's not going to stop America from showing other people that it's okay to kill black people. And I know that throughout this lecture, I've been talking about white people. But let me put aside for a second to also talk about non-black people. See, we live in a country where if you're not white and you're non-black, that the non-blacks want to be so close to the white man's teeth that they want to be white. And so they just want to be just like white people. Like the situation with what happened to Cyrus, Carmack Belcher. Well, that Asian man looked at that black child and felt that his life wasn't worth nothing. Understanding that if that child would have been a different race, we would not be where we are. That in his mind, in his mind that he made a decision that that child's life was worth nothing when he murdered that child. And then the government reinforced that. It was reinforced that once again, the life of a black child means nothing in America. And we look at what's going on with the situation with Nolan Wells, that we're told that the life of our children mean nothing, that they can do whatever they want to do. They won't even let Poe Nolan rest in peace, and what they're doing to his body, not releasing all his body parts to his family so that they can rule what actually happened to him. This is America. And we have to understand that now that it's okay for racists to let their racist flag fly, we got to get together, black people. We got to strategize. We have to understand. Because see, all of the cases I mentioned, all of the black names I mentioned, when they say her name, say his name, and talking about when black people are murdered by white people, when black people are being hung from trees, when their bodies are being found mutilated and their penis are being stuffed in their mouths. There's so many other cases like Minister and he did y'all know Minister Raheem is also the sax preacher. And when he talks about when he did the funeral of the black man who was found in his truck naked, I think he said it was soil in his mouth. This isn't going to stop. It's only going to get worse. And if you think that, oh, we just need to arm ourselves better, or oh, we just need more guns, or oh, we just need more of this. What does America tell us when we defend ourselves? Carmelo Anthony is the perfect example of a smart child with a high GPA, with excellent athletic skills, being bullied, being attacked and defending himself, and being sentenced to over 30 years in jail because he had the audacity to defend his black life. He had the audacity to defend himself. And so we can't win for nothing. We can't even defend ourselves without being sentenced to decades in jail. And when you look at all of these cases, when you look at Carmelo's case with the judge and the lawyer, and you're looking at Nolan's case with one of the parents being a judge and being politically involved, when we look at these positions of power that these people are holding, and at the end of the day, we're the ones who get the short end of the stick. This is real. And it's crazy because this isn't, a one-off, right? Because people will be like, oh, well, you can't compare. You're comparing apples to oranges. Like I'm talking about Cyrus and Carmelo and Nolan. It's like, oh, you comparing apples to oranges. Just like remember the boy who the family is still fighting, whose body was found rolled up in a mat with his organs missing. How many years ago was that case? Even then, telling us that the life of black boys don't matter, that the life of black children doesn't matter. It's 8:48. I have so much more to go, you guys. If you are enjoying this lecture and you would like to know more about this lecture, if you would like to know more about our upcoming events, we're going to have some live events that you can attend where we're going to be discussing these topics in person. Or if you would want to know how You and your family can become a member of the Toma Nation. You can always shoot us a comment if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, or you can shoot us a text at 773-846-3091. Now, when I talk about all of these things, and yes, all of the things I talked about, honestly, they can be super depressing. And it's just super sad and it's super insane that where Black people find ourselves in 2026. That there's so many Black people doing amazing things. There's so many Black people sharing their light with so many different people. But at the end of the day, that this country will always see us as a nigger with a hard R. And this lecture, this conversation that I had with you is not about instilling fear or creating fear. It's about us letting go and not being ignorant to what's really going on. And for us to come together with this knowledge and come together in unity and turn that hopelessness and turn that anger into action. How do we turn that anger into action? How do we turn that helplessness into action? And there was Minister Raheem said, someone asked him, well, who do we call? Like, what do we do? Can we call the police? Can we call the National Guard? Can we call the FBI? Can we call the CIA? When all of these levels of government have shown us how America really feels about Black people. Do we have any allies? If the situation with Cyrus did not show you that Black people have no friends, if the situation with Nolan did not show you that Black people truly have no friends, and there was this white boy who made a video about Nolan, and what he said sums up what I just said, in the notion that he said something like, with everything that's going on around the case, that the saddest part of the case, well, just imagine that in the last moments of your life that you realize that your friends are not your friends. Do you think he's the only Black child that's ever been set up by white people? He is not. See, these are real conversations that we need to have, because we have endured so much here in America and we continue to endure it, but we don't have to be hopeless. There's strength in unity. There's power in unity where we can come together and figure out what we should be doing. Because you have to look at, for us to be in 2026, where Black people across America are warning other Black people, don't let your children or your young or your youth go to all white spaces. Don't let them go to all white parties, all white sporting events. Don't let them go to these cafes or these malls when they're the only Black person. Doesn't it remind you of when Black parents used to have to warn their children about what streets they can go on for fear that the white people would snatch them and kill them? That was history, but this is now. And so that just proves to you what Minister Raheem said about us traveling back in time was very true. I wanted to share, it's 8:53. I wanted to share just two more things with you. And then that'll be the end of my lecture. Like I said, if you would like more information about this lecture or any of our previous lectures, you can always feel free to comment on, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, or you can also shoot us a text at 846 3091. Now, when I mentioned about being condemned to repeat the past, because when I say selective memory, we see real time that there's a danger of us forgetting where we are and the country that we live in. That there's a danger of us forgetting how many white people view us. And that there's a danger of forgetting that we live in a society where Black people cannot do nothing. We can't be nowhere. We can't enjoy ourselves. I was even just looking at social media here in Chicago of a group of Black people who went to a place in Wrigleyville and they were turned away, and they were only turning away Black people. Now this is in Chicago. We know Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the country. Okay. I was going to close out with some. Oh, here it is. I was looking for the scripture. It is from, so just so that you know, if you aren't familiar with us, when we quote scriptures here at the Toma Nation, if we're quoting the scripture from the Holy Bible, we utilize the standard King James Version of the Holy Bible. And with the Holy Quran, we use the Yusuf Ali translation version of the Holy Quran. So this is from Surah 4 in the Holy Quran, Ayat 134. And it says, O ye who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even as against yourselves or your parents or your kin. I'm going to say that again. O ye who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even as against yourselves or your parents or your kin. Now that's important because it's asking us who believe. It's asking us who claim to be the righteous. It's asking us who claim that God is our savior, right? It's asking us to stand out firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even if it's against yourself, your friends, your family, or your kin. Because when we get to, as Minister Rahim will continue to lecture us, we continue to talk about this tsunami of guns in our community and holding those accountable who are flooding our community with guns. We also have to hold our people who are accountable, who are not on the right side of what's going on with Black people. About the Black people who are in positions of power who won't stand with us to demand justice. And we must demand justice no matter who is involved. Now, I wanted to share that scripture with you because I think it is very pertinent to what's going on. And so, like I said, this lecture wasn't about fear mongering. This lecture wasn't to make you angry. This lecture was to make you think. This conversation was to make you think, and just think about where are you and what's going on. Are you having these conversations with your children, with your family? Are you warning them when they're outside? Are you teaching them what they should do if they encounter a situation where their life is in danger? Because there are too many videos of white people assaulting Black people, Black children. It's ridiculous. And so these are conversations that you need to be having with your children. These are conversations you need to be having with your family. Even Minister Rahim said it. I mentioned this in the lecture about us going to restaurants and other places where we're the only Black people there. That we should bring people with us, that we shouldn't be by ourselves. We even shouldn't be by ourselves as a couple. If you're going to be in a space just where it's majority white people. This is the reality that we find ourselves in. Now let's look at Isaiah chapter 1, verse 17. Learn to do well, seek judgment, relieve the oppressed, judge the fatherless, and plead for the widow. Because seeking justice requires courage. Seeking justice requires humility. Seeking justice requires perseverance, that we can't repeat the same mistakes of the past and have a selective memory. And so I hope that this conversation, that this lecture was useful to you. I hope this lecture made you think. I hope this lecture made you think about, how are you having these conversations in your homes? How are you having these conversations in your communities? How are you having these conversations in your nonprofit organizations and your religious institutions? Because we must have these conversations in order to come together in unity and to strategize how we can work together, so that, just like, think about back in the day, if you didn't know about the Deacons of Defense, look them up. This isn't the first time that we have experienced racial terror and racial violence in America. Our ancestors told us what we should do. And so how about you come together and join forces with us here at Toma Nation? It doesn't matter if you're in Chicago or not in Chicago. There are all things that we can be doing so that we can join together as a unit, where our strength, where our power is more powerful than an atomic bomb. I leave you as I greeted you. I hope this lecture was useful to you, Black family. If you would like more information or how to join us live, shoot us a text at 773-846-3091. Peace, Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu Alaikum, Habaragani, Alafia, and Nashe. Black Power.